Today we need to get into Jung Kook talking about dating, apparently. We also need to get into a restaurant posting about Jung Kook's alleged listening party, and then a lot of rumors coming out about this and what this is about. And then we have an alleged staff or stalker talking about the members and what is going on with this. So hey Dumplings, it's David. Decide hate it or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Make sure you join us fangirling on Patreon, and let's go. So every now and then there is someone that pisses off the community so much that they cause a lot of people to protest this person. Sometimes it's more so obvious what they've done, and then other times it's not anything that, in my opinion, is worth being angry about. But in this case, it is something that I really can't verify whether it's true or not, and the claims that are being made about and against this person seem fairly valid. I can't really find any information about this specific person, so I want to preface that I don't know their story and I don't know what is going on. All I can base this off of is what everyone is saying online. So what is going on and what happened? Apparently there was a Japanese stalker that did a lot of very terrible things, apparently making claims that all the BTS music videos were their ideas, to making racist comments about the BTS members, apparently also claiming that the BTS members have broken into her house, which would make no sense because which one of the BTS members would break into a person's house? They obviously wouldn't do that, and if they were to do that out of hatred to someone, they probably just pay someone else to do it. I just can't imagine that a multi-millionaire group where someone is extremely busy and has a full schedule to be breaking into someone's house. Apparently when BTS members' relatives came to Japan or wherever, the alleged stalker tried to reach out to the relatives to get in touch with the BTS members. And I've talked about stalkers that are considered stalkers by the community but aren't actually, but I think if these claims are valid, then this person is indeed a stalker. One of the other claims that this stalker allegedly made was that saying that this person had worked at Hive, which I think is an extremely interesting, bold claim, because if the label were to look into this, they can clearly see that this person is delusional and doesn't work at the label. Also, to publicly make claims like this and then also claim that you work at the label, then the label will probably just fire you. But of course, that opens the question and this idea that is this someone that did work for the label and then stopped working for the label and now is like a disgruntled employee, thus is following the BTS members around, trying to dig up things. Maybe their intent isn't even to get noticed by the members, but just to dig up information about them because they want to try to ruin the group. All valid theories, I think. People online were calling for the action of the label to try to get the label to do something and stop this person, or in general stop stalkers from doing these types of things. There's only so much a label can do, and even if the label were to take this alleged stalker's face, plaster it all over there, do not allow near list or whatever, it's not going to stop that person. There's still no one that's monitoring every single person that's going into the airport. There's not a single person that is monitoring who is going in and out of events, and chances are if it's a private event and the stalker were to get in anyway, it's not like they were getting through in the front door or through normal means. At this point, this type of security that the BTS members would need to avoid any sort of stalkers would be sort of like government level security, to which they cannot have that. And a lot of people might be wondering why. The simple and plain answer is resource allocation. Providing government level security to every celebrity would require significant resources and manpower, which may not be feasible or justifiable given other priorities for police or security agencies. Other things that are just celebrities might prefer their privacy and are not going to want security and security guards watching over them all the time. There's a lot of stuff going on online and a lot of things that people are mentioning and talking about. One of the things is an interview that Jung Kook did recently, and it was leaked by one of the people that were considered stalkers. I'm not going to show any of these people's names that I'm talking about, but online there is a group of people that are considered stalkers that leak information or pretend like they are going into Jung Kook's house or just a bunch of things, but they don't actually ever have evidence to prove the things that they are claiming they're doing. But anyway, someone alleged that Jung Kook did an interview where he talked about dating. Now, this interview was then reposted and talked about a lot, and one of the comments that I thought was very interesting was the fact that it seemed like Jung Kook was very reluctant to talk about him dating or potentially dating in the future. The post also mentions that Jung Kook loves his community so much, and yes, he does, that he would be scared to break their trust by one day dating. This comment was then agreed with by so many people. Now, I really want to talk about this and break this down. Break their trust by dating. What does this mean? What trust would he be breaking by dating? Did the community think that he would never date? even though he has talked about wanting to have a family one day. The fact that people are posting this as a sort of like, well, we know it's going to happen, but like, I'm going to be sad anyway type of thing, it makes no sense to me. What are you being sad about? There's just going to be more content. He's going to have a family. He's going to probably show his kids and his wife or whoever on screen, and it's just going to be a lot more content for us to enjoy. People ship all of the BTS members with other girl groups all the time, and then you'd actually have a real person that you can then ship Jung Kook with. The one thing that we can take away from this, if it's true, is that he will one day date and he will definitely one day have a family and all those things. I think the only thing we can do is be happy for him and genuinely not feel upset, because there is this sense of immaturity. There is this sense of delusion when you're upset about someone who you don't know personally dating, because you don't know his life. You don't know what his situation is. And also this implies that if you were to meet him in person, he would just automatically date you, not knowing what his actual type is and what he actually looks for. And this is like the part that people maybe don't know as much. The type that you say publicly that you would like to date is typically not the type that you go for. How many people say that my type is this, and then you see the person that they end up and it looks nothing like what they said? Because publicly we say a standard of something and that standard typically falls in line with what society believes is acceptable. And in reality, you might fall in love with someone who doesn't really fit that societal standard. And that's okay, that's totally fine. But maybe you wouldn't publicly admit that. Therefore, the standard that people say are never actually accurate. Now, I don't know how to transition to the next story, but this is very crazy, so I'll just talk about it and just do a hard transition. Not long ago, Jung Kook had a listening party for his album. Now, don't quote me on any of this because it's a translation from Korean to English, and it doesn't seem like their English was very good, but from what I gather from their statement, this is what I think happened. So there was a restaurant in Korea that hosted Jung Kook's listening party. Someone then posted video clips of people going into the restaurant, celebrities, and people attending the listening party. That clip was then viewed by this specific restaurant's American social media manager. So to give a little context here, this particular restaurant has a restaurant in Korea. They also have a restaurant in America, and they're run by two completely different people. And also two completely different people run both Korean and American social medias. The listening party was allegedly in Korea, and this clip was floating around that was of people entering the listening party, was taken by someone in Korea, and the American teams had no idea of what was actually going on in Korea because there are two separate entities, sort of. So what the American shop did and what they ended up posting on their Instagram was a video of that specific reel. And in that specific reel, it was made to make it appear like Blackpink attended the listening party, so specifically Jennie and Jisoo. So the specific restaurant had to come out and say that those two actually never attended the listening party, and the people that were allegedly believed to be on the list for the listening party actually wasn't true. The American restaurant social media account posted the reel only because they had no idea what was going on in the Korean restaurant, and so their posting was just kind of to congratulate and be excited about what was going on, but their post was based off of what was being rumored on social media rather than what actually happened, if that makes sense. The story was then quickly removed, and the reel was then quickly removed, and there seemed to be no issues with that. However, people had then taken that reel and story and twisted their own narrative with it. So the Korean restaurant came out and basically talked about all this and said that none of this was true and that they would be taking legal action on anyone who is spreading malicious rumors on this and causing damage to both the labels and the artists as well as the restaurant. Of course, in many cases, I do believe that rumors of dating or rumors of artists being in the same room together should not be causing damage to any company or artist. However, in K-pop, yeah, it does happen, because the video making it appear like it was confirmed or leaked by the restaurant is getting attacked for essentially pushing this rumor, and of course the artists themselves are getting attacked for alleged dating. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks for this lovely comment right here. Love you, bye.